anyone else but you. I think you've just been so consistent in being a disruptor. And I just like to start off by saying that in this world of cacophonic world that we have, where there is so much noise, thank you for being a voice of clarity and a voice that counts. Let me just start off by lobbing this in your court. What for you is a sustainable disruptor, and how do you think you fit into that, in your opinion, in your career and in your life, organically or otherwise?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Priyanka. Thank you, Tenebra. And thank you, everybody in Calcutta. I have always gotten so much love every time I've been to the city. And Priyanka, you've supported me through my years. I'm going to complete a decade next year. So everything leading up to it, I often pinch myself. I'm like, so much has happened over the last 10 years, and I'm truly living my dream. So thank you so much for your constant support. But answering your question, to me, a sustained disruptor is somebody that is authentic, that stays true to who they are, what they resonate with, because life throws so much towards you. And if you don't succumb to those pressures and still stick by your moral ground, by what your belief system is, I think that's what a sustainable disruptor is. To constantly be at it, to constantly just be the person that you are. I think in the times that we are living, the most difficult thing is to be honest, to be ourselves. Because there's so much noise around us. There are people constantly telling us, you should do this, you should look this way, this is what you should be eating. Because of digital platforms now, there's so much information that comes around to us. I think what's so important is to stop all of that noise, truly understand what your goal is, what your purpose is. Recognize your purpose and keep working towards it every day. That's what makes you a disruptor. That's what makes you an icon, actually.
Right. It's interesting you say that, because a lot of people, when asked this question, say that they've evolved to the state. But you seem to be somebody who's always been very comfortable in her skin, which is indicated by the first film that you did, where you kind of shattered all the stereotypes of a so-called leading lady / Hindi cinema heroine. I don't want to use the word Bollywood. And you played a woman from a small town who, you were like, I think, several dozen kgs heavier than what you are, in Bangladesh, Haisha, which remains a watermark, a landmark film in not only your career, but a watershed film in the history of Hindi cinema, at least in the last 15 to 20 years. What went through your mind when you did that? I'm sure you could have easily taken the route of doing of having a conventional debut, right? Were there no misgivings at that point of time that I'm starting off with this in an industry which is quick to stereotype?
I don't come from a film family. I had nobody, dur tak, who could have helped me create an opportunity for something that I wanted to do so deeply. So I hustled. I tried everything possible. I started my career being an assistant casting director, even though all I ever wanted to do was act. And I worked my way up. I became so good at my job that people within the Yash Raj, I was very fortunate that my first job was at Yash Raj Films as an assistant casting director. But I became so good at my job that I kept changing departments, but I was like, they'll never ask me to leave. And they will give me my first film. And that happened. Now coming to your question, I am so fortunate that my first film was Dam Laga Ke Haisha. Thank God that happened to me, and thank God it was an unconventional role, because that chartered the next 10 years, and thus I'm sitting here in front of all of you. Had my film not been, had that role not been so special, had it not been something that truly questioned the status quo, I think my choices would have not made me as excited, or would not have been as exciting, and I would not have pushed myself the way I have through the years. But coming back to your question, why Dam Laga Ke Aisha because I didn't have a choice. Destiny gave me that film. I did not have a choice that, okay, wow, now you want to be an actor, these are your films, who's the director you want to work with, none of that. I was in a place at a point where this beautiful script was being made, and they thought, because they'd heard me conduct audition over years, right? So they were like, okay, we think she can act, but does she want to act? Because I never told anybody I want to be an actor. I was an AD in that system. I was an assistant director in that system. And they asked me, and I was like, hey, yeah, whatever you need to do, I'll do, because it's a dream. How many people get an opportunity like that?
Correct.
So I wasn't thinking about gaining weight, losing weight, nothing. I said, picture करने को मिल रही है मुझे. यशराज फिल्म्स की पिक्चर में हीरोइन बन जाऊंगी यशराज फिल्म्स में. मेरे लिए उससे कोई बड़ी बात ही नहीं थी. It doesn't happen. A regular girl from a regular household where everybody have lawyers and doctors and engineers, and all my parents ever wanted was that I take a traditional education path. And then this googly happened, and I got this opportunity because for many years I couldn't really tell anybody in my family what my plan was, because people, they would laugh at me. Sure, you'll get a film because you're working there as an AD. Where does that happen? That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like destiny. I really thank God, because I think I was just at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, that is what my next question was, that, did playing this character and the kind of love that came for it and for that film, obviously it gave you a lot of confidence, but it also gave you, the path that, did you decide at that point of time that the off the beaten track is what you want to be doing? And how much did the choices that come your way after Dum Laga Ke Aisha, how did that promote, kind of support that?
So even when I was a film student, or the kind of cinema that I enjoyed, which I realized as I started adulting, were films that had some meaning attached to them. Again, I was really lucky that my first film was extremely performance-backed, content-backed, and then I realized that this is my path. And I also wanted to maximize that opportunity and create a space for myself where I was irreplaceable. I wanted to create a niche so strong that they'll be like, nahi yaar, agar aisi film hai, there's a performance, if there's a promise for a performance in a film, they would take me. And that's all I tried. So, and again, I can't dismiss the fact that after my first film, I had phenomenal opportunities that came my way. Right from Toilet Ek Prem Katha as my second film, it's a dream with Akshay Kumar, a film that is so impact driven. Where the girl has such strong agency. It was a dream for me. And then whether it was a Shubh Mangal Saavdhan, again, I think I thrive in comedy. Again, that film had a message in it. It was just so ahead of its time. It's actually one of my most favorite films, and just the opportunities that followed was so great. Like my fourth film was with Zoya Akhtar. I got an opportunity to work with Abhishek Chaubey. These are hardcore filmmakers. And I don't know, I keep going back into time and I'm like, what happened? Why did I get these chances? You know what? But I don't have an
Never
answer.
question it. Just go with it. Yeah. But then, has anyone ever told you that you're irreplaceable for a particular role?
Well, my last film, Bhaksha, was specially written for me. And I remember my director Pulkit came to me and he's like, look, मैंने आपके लिए कहानी लिखी है, मुझे नहीं लगता ये फिल्म आपके अलावा कोई भी कर सकता है, मुझे नहीं लगता मेरी वैशाली आपके अलावा और कोई भी हो सकती है. And I turned around to him and I said, but I have done Heartland cinema. Most of my characters, I'm very proud that most of my characters are set in Heartland cinema. And I was like, don't you want to explore this with some other actor that probably hasn't done it? He's like, no, because I truly feel that this part needs a certain honesty and realism and performance, which I think you can lend to the film. And I think for an actor, there's nothing more motivating and encouraging than that.
That's a huge compliment.
Absolutely. And just to know that, okay, there are filmmakers that trust me enough to even carry something that Bhaksha is a very sensitive film. it's so sensitive. All I ever wanted to do was protect the film, right? Because of the theme of what the film stood for. And if the producers were Red Chillies, and I remember when I finished shooting the film, Shahrukh sir called me and we had like the most wonderful 15-minute conversation because he had also seen rushes of the film. And I was like, see, this is how I became an actor.
Yeah.
Because I want appreciation. I want that because that keeps me motivated. That I'm like, okay, let's keep going. It's not easy to make certain choices.
Hmm.
But then but then you pick those films, and then when you get love for them, it's like, okay, I know what I'm doing is right.
Right. It's interesting that, of course, it's been a mixture of luck, hard work, the right choices that came to you at the right time. But being an actor is also, you're dependent on a lot of other things, right? In terms of those choices coming to you. How did you kind of, maneuver your way through this? Where I'm sure you must have got a lot of the run-of-the-mill choices also, run-of-the-mill roles. How did you, organically or even by design decide that these are going to be disruptors for you?
I feel like for any individual, especially if you're in the performing arts, you should only take up material that you have conviction in.
Hmm.
Had I had conviction in those parts that maybe are a little more generic in their tone, I would have done them, but I never had. So I did know that I'd be extremely bad in them. So I just started saying no for various reasons. And I've said this time and again on various public platforms that the word no has a lot of power. And often women don't know how to use it. We don't know how to exercise it because we feel so burdened about refusing something because we are constantly taught that, oh, there are only those many opportunities, and if you say no, we will get somebody better. I'm sure you might, because I think everybody that I share this time, all my colleagues, they are wonderful women. I'm sure you will, but we are constantly conditioned, right? कि हम आप पे एहसान कर रहे हैं कि आपके पास ये रोल आ रहा है, but मेरा मन नहीं है तो आप रखो.
Well, it's not always easy to say no, is it? I mean, do you have to, you've evolved to a certain place to be able to say no, right?
Absolutely. It's not like I have been in this position. It's taken me years of learning and unlearning and understanding what my value or worth is. There, and especially when a film doesn't work. Because I would say most part of my journey as an actor, I only saw success. But then when that failure hits you, you don't know what has hit you, and nobody prepares you for it. Because again, when you don't come from an ecosystem that has generationally seen this, there's nobody telling you that, listen, there will also be a time when a film might not work, and that's a bloody lonely journey. Failure is so lonely, but as actors, I feel we all are so resilient. We always are up from the ashes. We know how to collect ourselves, but yeah, there's a lot of internal dialogue and debate about me. I'm like, okay, now this film has come. On 100% it might work, at least that's what everybody tells you, right? Like, it's just like this magnanimous film that comes, and I'm like, okay, but I only have like 4 scenes and maybe like 2 songs. Should I do it? And see, the problem is not 4 scenes. The problem is, what am I doing in those 4 scenes? I have done in Soul Chiriya, I don't enter the film till the 40th minute. I won every award that year for that film. So it's not about the duration that you're in the film or the project. It is about how meaty that part is. Does it excite me enough to do it? But then I'm like, no, because I've done a couple of projects where I succumbed to the pressure, but I was so unhappy doing them, I said, no. It's not fair that I come onto a set where I'm not 100%, and it's not fair on the makers or my co-actors or me. It really would affect my mental health. I would be like because I love acting. This is what I do. I love being on a film set. I thrive on a film set. You should see me. I'm up at 4:30 on a shoot day, ready to go. I love it. So I only want to do films and I only want to do work where I feel energized.
Okay. That's very nice to hear. I mean, 10 years down the line to have that kind of, that zeal to get up every morning and do not many people can say that.
Priyanka, you're going to see the same energy 30 years later when you call me on this platform, and I'm sure you're going to see the same energy. I promise you that.
I'm very, very sure about that. Okay. It's interesting you mentioned about the fact that, you could have 4 scenes, but those 4 scenes should have meat and merit. And I was just thinking about a film that you did called Bala, which may not have had that many scenes, but people remember you a lot from that film. Although it was the protagonist was Ayushmann who had that whole alopecia problem. There was Yami, and then there was you who also had this thing. But would that be would you count that role also as being hugely disruptive in your career?
100%. I think there was so much conversation that film started, and it wasn't just my character, also the representation that Ayushmann had, or even Yami had, right? Because often, and I really, really thoroughly enjoyed her in the film. I remember after watching it, I was like, this is by far one of your finest work because it's so tough. Because she represented how the society sees a quintessential pretty girl, right? Because the moment you have conventional beauty, suddenly there are a lot of attributes that are taken away from you, right? Your intelligence is questioned, your drive is questioned, your ambitions are questioned, and I felt like Amar Kaushik, the director, had such a beautiful take on that character as well, because she is one of my most favorite parts of the film. That's why I'm just digressing and speaking about her. Because I just feel like by the end of it, we all have the right to live the life that we want. So if she wanted a partner that was different, it's her choice.
Yeah.
And who are we to judge? Because the film was all about judgment and liberation. But I think Bala definitely was a disruptor. Sandhya.
Of course. I was coming to that.
Okay, then I'll let you take that question.
No, before that I was going to, in fact, Sandhya also fits into that because you mentioned about playing women. A lot of women based out of the heartland of India, small towns as we mentioned. And do you think that it's reductive to kind of bring it down to saying that Bhumi has played a lot of characters of strong women with a very strong moral fiber belonging to small towns? Because I think even though the setting may have been more or less the same, the characters were all different, right?
Absolutely, and thank you so much for making that comment. Um, I feel for me, I'm going to break this question into 2 parts. The first part being that it's a lot more challenging for me to play characters that are far away from me. I'm a Bombay born and bred girl. I haven't really explored what heartland India looks like. Like many of our city-bred children, right? My films gave me that exposure. I had that opportunity, and to play a character that is so away from me is a challenge, and that's what I started enjoying. Having said that, most of the characters that belong to that socio-economic strata, as you said, there are women from different walks of life. And they all have their challenges. They all have their drives. They all are trying to break some kind of shackle. So for me, there was no monotony in playing those characters. Yes, they might look like any other girl that you know, but that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
I love playing Indian, modern Indian. I love representing the modern Indian woman on screen. And I think there are so many shades, and I don't want to be boxed. I'm asked this question time and again. Do you feel like you've been a stereotype? Not at all, because the narrative in every film is so different.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, we are 1.7 billion people, so I think there are so many stories.
Right. That is where I was coming. You mentioned Sandhya, which is of course a very, very different film. To play a real life sharpshooter in the 60s, where I think both you and Taapsee excelled, and you don't need me to tell you that because the world has said that. And another film that I know is very, very close to your heart is Badhai Do, which really shattered every kind of stereotype for you to play a gay woman in a lavender marriage when it was really not explored in mainstream Hindi cinema, and that film did so well and remains such an indelible part of your career. Could you talk about making those choices and what led to them?
Um, yes, thank you. There was a lot of noise. I was like, what's happening? Sorry. I didn't need to be distracted, but I got really distracted. Okay. So yes, about Badhai Ho, Priyanka, is that right? I'm so
Badhai
sorry.
Ho
I did not.
and
Yeah. Okay. Um, so Sandki Arc was my director Tushar, who also made a beautiful film with Raj this year.
Right.
Again, one of my most favorite films. So when Sandhya came my way, I read it and I was so confused with the first 20 pages. I said, what part does he want me to play? Because both the protagonists are 63 and 65. I called him up. I was like, look, I'm a little confused. Like, what part do you want me to play? Because there's nothing age appropriate for me. He's like, no, I want you to play one of the dadis. I'm like, what? Like, are you okay? Are you sure? He's like, yeah, I think your thoughts seems to be great. I'm like, okay, interesting. I started reading it, and by the time I finished the script, I was howling. So for me, I still get goosebumps. My mother's from Haryana. I have seen that world closely. I could never speak the language, but for me, Sandhya is an ode to my grandmother. Everything that you see me do in the film is how my nani was. Everything, from the way I love my grandkids to the resilience the character had. So because I'd seen her so closely, and then I spent incredible amounts of time with Chandru Dadi and Prakashi Dadi. Chandru Dadi is no more,
Yeah.
and I was like, they are icons. What they did for their community is something for the books. It's historic. At the age of 60, I mean, they were above 60. They come from a background where they lived in a parda. You know, so when we speak about gender divide, that's like the most it can get. And they broke every shackle and they just turned things around. And what was their motivation? Their motivation were the girls in their family.
Yeah.
They wanted them to have a better life. They wanted to be an example for them. And I was like, this is a dream role. And then I got to do it with Tapsi, and I think our chemistry was cracking. She's still my sister. And I think when you do such a special film, the bond is truly deep. There's such deep love and respect that we have for each other. And I'm completely her hype girl, and I think she's completely my hype girl. We are constantly, and I think and I'm also saying this at this point because there's this narrative that लड़कियां दोस्त नहीं हो सकती, ये किसी आदमी ने बनाया था क्योंकि लड़कियां बहुत बहुत अच्छी दोस्त
लड़कियां या हीरोइन दोस्त नहीं हो सकती.
नहीं आपको you can't be on that team. You can't be that. I mean, we are human, yeah, Priyanka. We are human. There are no cat fights.
Everyone thinks that, right? From the outside.
Back in the day, people did.
Yeah.
I think now things are changing because even if you see on Instagram, like I've actually worked a lot with co-stars that have been women. Konkana, Ananya, Tapsi, Kiara,
Right.
Rahul and I have done a film together. I hope I'm not forgetting Yami,
Yeah.
right? So I have done incredible amounts of work with women and it's always been such a secure, safe space. लड़कियां दोस्त नहीं बहनें होती हैं. There's a code because we all have shared experiences. From whatever strata of the society you might be, whatever your background is, whatever your upbringing is, there are certain shared experiences that make us empathize for each other. We don't go fighting on boys. Please let's get over it. Like that doesn't happen. Okay, so I think it's very important to use platforms like so, you know, where I'm in we've always had incredible conversation.
Right.
So I think I should use this platform to just kind of clear that statement out that women, we are very, very tight because we all have one common goal in mind to bring about change. Because we all have received certain amount of, we all have been a part of certain amount of disparity.
Absolutely.
You know, so we all are in our own ways just trying to make the gap smaller.
And I was asking about Badhai, which is also a very, very important film.
But I think it's by far one of my most favorite films even to watch. I've always been an ally. You know, I've had queer friends. I've been a part of many coming out stories. And I remember as a teenager, when we were like 15, that was the first time I had a male friend of mine come and tell me that he is gay.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, you know, it's fine. He was bullied and he wasn't really accepted, but we formed a deep friendship. And I remember going and telling my mom, and my mom's like, so great, good for him. At least he knows what he wants and who he loves. And I think from then, my perspective has always been that the world needs to be inclusive. We all need to have the right to love who we want. How can we decide what's natural and what's not natural? Who are we to decide that?
Absolutely.
You know, it's the same thing, right? Like they say, oh, naturally women are supposed to be at home, but who are you to decide that? Similarly, who are you to decide whether I should love a man or a woman or what gender I identify with? And because I feel so strongly about it, when Badhai came, I jumped on it. I also love doing comedies. I personally think my best performances happen when I am doing a comedic role. I hope the audience kind of agrees with me, but I really enjoy comedies. And here was a film that really makes you laugh and really makes you cry. And yeah, what I want to say, love is love. Let people breathe.
That's so wonderful. Can we have a round of applause for that? Also, Bhumi, I wanted to know that, you also started your career at a time when, streaming platforms started booming, and then we heard, and we've been witness to the fact that opportunities opened up, and you didn't really need to work within the limits of certain box of Hindi cinema to be able to reach out, and it gave a lot of space to creative people of all sorts, not only actors, but writers, filmmakers, etc. How much do you think that your career has benefited from that?
So my experience with any streaming platform is rather recent because I've only just in the last 2 years I've had content that has gone up.
Yeah.
For an actor like me that's constantly chasing most impeccable content, I'm very, very thankful that there are more mediums available because the theatrical game is very different today. You know, and you're constantly told that only a particular kind of films will work in the theaters. I don't agree with that. But I don't use streaming platforms as a theater mein nahi jayegi, bahar डाल दूंगा. I think that's abusing a platform.
Correct.
Right? I feel like every story has the right audience and every story, can you not hear me? Oh, sorry, I thought you were, okay. And every story needs to, sorry, I got a little distracted. What I was saying was that
Platforms should not be just used to dump,
yeah, I think that's not fair. But because of digital platforms, I think there have been such phenomenal technicians, filmmakers, writers that have come up that it is just very exciting. And what happened with my last film, Bhaksha, I was blown away. Because the genre is such where I was like, okay, I don't know if this is going to be palatable. I was constantly told that listen, थोड़ी dark picture है, पता नहीं कैसे लोग देखेंगे, it is on exploitation of children and it's a real story. But then when the numbers came, I'm like, I was shocked. I had messages in languages that I couldn't even read, but thanks to social media, you have that option where you're like translate. And then I was just receiving insane amounts of love. So it's such an empowering medium. I finished 2 shows this year actually.
Yeah.
From not wanting to do any because I didn't find the right content to doing 2 because I just love. I'm like, yeah, these films are not. This content is not being made in films. And I'm an actor, I'm a product of good content. So wherever I get a good story.
Right. You had told me last time when we had spoken, and quote unquote, is that you had said that, I'm a shapeshifter, and I'm not defined by the way I look. My confidence comes to me from my roles. How easy or difficult has it been to kind of stick to that in an industry and in a job, which for the most part looks at women, defines beauty by certain stereotypes and standards?
You asked me this question when now when people look at me because I look different. I look very away from how I looked in my first film. They feel that I've succumbed to industry standards. No.
Huh.
This is how I am today. Tomorrow, if a filmmaker comes and he's like, okay, will you like look physically different because the film requires you to 100%. I did this for a part. I mean, Royals, the first announcement for Royals is already out. And I was like, okay, इस तरफ भी जाके देखते हैं कैसा लगता है. So that's just something I personally enjoy. But having said that, as I'm growing older, a woman's body is very complex. What I've learned is I need to also stop abusing my body. My craft, absolutely. I will do whatever it takes, but I'm also human by the end of it. Right? Over the last couple of years, and because I've said this when I was younger, but I was like, oh, I can like no. I think this is when we spoke a year, 2 years ago.
Yes.
Yes, I remember this interview. And but I feel like today I realize that I also need to respect what I have. I can't be doing this the way I used to. But yeah, like earlier, every 3 months I look like a different person. It can't happen because hormones are a very, very real thing. I just want to say that. It really takes a lot of work to keep your mind calm.
Right.
So right now my full concentration is into keeping my brain healthy.
Correct. I think that's something to learn from. We all need to keep our brains very, very healthy. But it's interesting because, but do you think that when people say that I lost weight for this, I gained weight for this, I did my hair a certain way, I put on prosthetics, do you think that's a very simplistic way of describing the prep for a certain part?
Absolutely. Look, it's just not about physically transforming yourself. A good prep for a character is very, very nuanced and complex. Just physically looking different does not cut it. There is a lot that goes into it. So it goes from diction to actually thinking the way the character thinks. And it's not like you should not make it your crutch that, oh, I look different. This means I put in a lot of effort and that's it. Like, you see, many a times, and not just in India, globally, that an actor's six packs are spoken about like what has happened. 100 marks to the effort. Absolutely, it takes so much work to look like that and maintain it, and I feel for boys it's a lot tougher. They constantly need to be muscular and veins popping and it must be tough. But then when we appreciate their craft, that can't be the first thing you can be commenting on. I'm sure when them as actors feel the same.
Yeah.
Like comment on something else. How did you like my work? How did you like my performance? Do you think I was convincing? Did I look the part? I think that's what it needs to be.
Absolutely. Also another part of your personality, of your persona, is as a climate change warrior, which also kind of fits in so well with the theme that we have. You've always championed sustainability. You've spoken on various platforms and have been president of the UN in terms of how we really, really need to save our planet and that it starts from home. How did it start for you? Was it like a specific instance, or is this something that's been ingrained in you from childhood? You're called Bhumi after all.
I think my parents just had great intuition. It has to be that. I'm called Bhumi. My sister, who's a lawyer, is called Samiksha, which is like critical analysis. I don't know what happened to them when they were naming us. But I think I've just grown up in a very empathetic environment. We were constantly taught to give back. I've seen my parents do that since I was very young. So I think it inherently got passed on to me. But my passion for the environment, it happened when I was in school. It started with fear, which I now realize that I had climate anxiety, which is a very real thing. We'd be surprised how many young adults deal with climate anxiety every day, because we are constantly taught that, okay, the climate is changing, the earth is heating up, and they are actually dealing with those repercussions, right? Like, see what happened in our capital. Schools were shut down. That's not okay. Right to clean air is our basic right. How are we taking that away? Good nutrition. We don't have good nutrition in our food. So the world that I grew up in is not the world that my children are going to grow up in, and that's what I'm fighting for. My fight started because I was like, okay, if I truly love my family and if I truly, in the truest way, want to protect them, there is something very large that is happening. Climate change isn't something that's meant for like, fictional stories that you see on screen, apocalyptic world. No, this is real. And recently in Himachal, there were like massive forest fires.
Yes.
That looks like an apocalyptic world. There are floods, like unseasonal, torrential rain. Crops getting destroyed. So we are really abusing our planet, and absolutely on a policy level, a lot needs to happen. But we can't just put everything onto the government. What are we doing on a personal level? Are we even doing something as simple as segregating our garbage at home? We are not even doing that. And then we complain, oh my god, like there are landfills that are as high as feet, as tall as a 10 floored building. But that's our kachra na, that we generated. What are you doing about it? So we also need strong practices where we as individuals are concerned, and that's why I'm constantly talking about it at every platform, that we all need to understand that this is the largest threat that humanity is dealing with. You've seen a massive shift where consumer behavior is concerned.
Yes.
You've seen massive conglomerates are today going towards sustainable practices. Why? Because by the end of it, we all need to survive.
It's become a question of that now. Okay, but how do you kind of, when you can, how does sustainability form a part of your daily life? What are the small things or the big things that you do?
So I can give a couple of tips. I try my level best. I would say at least 99% of the times I don't use, for example, single-use plastic. I don't use plastic bottles. A, they are very bad for your health. Okay. Secondly, they are very bad for the planet. And it really makes me uncomfortable when I see little children. Now look, this also comes from a place of privilege because I have this information and I have an option, right? But even people that are at a place of privilege, we give our children pani plastic. I get it. And the thing is that the receiving, unfortunately, the way the world works, that the vulnerable communities are the first ones to get affected by our abuse, right? So anyway, I have ditched single-use plastic as much as I can. If I get packages, if I have anything that comes and we send it for recycling. Today in India, we have, especially in the cities, there's a very strong waste management recycling facility that has been put up. So all you have to do is literally like Google, where can I send my plastic to get recycled, and there are people who come home and they pick it up.
It's as easy as that.
It's genuinely, look, the idea is about having that thought, about having intention, about caring. So the moment you have intent, you'll find ways of making it happen. If I want to go on a holiday, don't I figure out my entire itinerary? Then why can't I do this? It's just being conscious about your consumption. It is a fact that every time we buy a t-shirt, there are hundreds of liters of water that go into it. Reuse, recycle, upcycle, be proud of re-wearing clothes. Like these are very basic things that I'm saying. Segregate your garbage at source, please do that. It's inhuman what we do. अपना गीला कचरा, सूखा कचरा हम सब डाल देते, 2 minutes नहीं लगता है. It's just about setting practice in your kitchen.
Yeah.
Don't use liters of water to clean your house, to plant your trees. It's horrible. It's just not okay. We know better, and we are the ones that abuse. अगर आप गाँव में जाओगे ना इंडिया में, अगर आप किसी भी हिंदुस्तानी village में जाओ, you will see our culture is sustainable. I've seen my grandparents, my mother also constantly recycling things. उनको ना दर्द होता है खाना फेंकते हुए, उनको दर्द होता है कोई भी चीज वेस्ट करते हुए. हम में वो नहीं है, क्यों? Because we want a life of convenience. We don't have time, and we need to change that.
Absolutely. No, one last question from me before we kind of throw it over to the audience for a couple of questions. You've also spoken a lot about gender parity and pay parity in cinema as a whole. I mean, we see it in the industry and in wherever there is all over the world. But what are the pressing issues that you and your contemporaries face in the industry today that you would like to address in your own way?
Look, I think one of the larger conversations is always about pay parity, but I feel that is just not in my industry, that is everywhere.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay, we don't have enough women in places of power, we don't have women that are making policies, we don't have women in leadership roles. We do, but there are a handful. Today, go Google how many CEOs are women, there are a handful. I think that needs to change. So how disbalanced the power is the problem. I just read an article where finally there is research being done on women for our health. So even our medical research was not based on us. Right? Your optimum weight is not based on us. It is done by what a man who is my age, my height, 5 feet 4 inches, his optimum weight should be this much, so woman's optimum weight, no. So let's just start with that, right? Because I strongly feel that the films, we are fairly democratic. Are there antisocial elements? 100%, like any other industry. But if you're on a film set, you will see a certain parity between men and women. You know, and it really excites me. Like my last project, the producer was my producers were women. The DOP was a woman. The director was a woman. I was leading the show was a woman, and it was just beautiful. I love working with women.
Right, right. Now does anybody have a question that they would ask Bhumi? Is there a mic going around? Anyone? Is there a mic going around?
Hi, good evening. Hello. Yeah. Good evening. You spoke so well, and Priyanka, great question.
Thank you.
So I don't know whether should I tell you the reason why I'm asking. I'm a doctor, and we also see our favorite stars like Deepika, Alia, you know, with Anushka. All of them are getting married. They're having children. And our favorite star is also you. So when are you going to get married? Are you going to have your children? You talked about your children.
I was prepared for a lot of things, not that. Oh well, thank you so much for your question. When I find the right man, that's about it.
And our interest is that we will all go to your marriage.
Please.
Aditya will come.
I want to have a really large, big, fat Indian wedding. Everyone's invited.
And
Hold you to that. Anyone else? Someone in the back. Please pass the mic there.
Hello, Bhumiji. Namaste. I'm from Nepal. So I have a question like you are being a role model, right, as a woman. So how do you plan to, because women are always inspired being a role model, like, and I can be a role model or you can be a role model. So how do you plan to be a role model as a woman, and how do you plan to inspire women to be like you, to think about like the society, the CSR activities? How do you plan to be inspiring mentorship?
Thank you so much for your question. You know, I was very fortunate growing up to be surrounded by some really phenomenal women, right? From my mother to my sister to Shanu Sharma, because of whom I am actually here, to my friends, my best friends, some people that have constantly helped me. So I am here because I've been fueled by some really, really strong women. And I want to be that same energy into anybody else's life.
Right.
I have grown up, I've had role models growing up. And I have seen their life and I'm like, okay, see the dignity, the respect, the ambition that this girl has. And I resonated with it. And I was like, that's exactly what I want to do. That's why I don't need a single platform to come and talk about my achievements. Again, if you're constantly told that we should be very conservative about our ambition and our achievements, we shouldn't be. You should celebrate every win of yours. Because that's how you will become a role model. Even if it's like winning a race in college, I don't know, celebrate it, talk about it. So that the other girls, they're like, oh, okay, let me also give it a chance, let me go run. That's the only way you can do it.
Thank you. I think we have time for one last question. If
I
anyone
can
wants to ask.
Priyanka, I'll ask. Hello, Bhumi ma'am. Myself, Kurdi. Actually, we have done a clip with Kartik Gajali, Pati Patni on Go. So, how is your experience working with Kartik in that clip?
Seems to be a Kartik Aaryan fan.
आप उसके fan हो?
आपकी fan है.
Yeah, him and I are also very good friends. And Pati Patni was such a fun, joyous thing to do. And he's just so good in this space. He enjoys himself so much. And I think he is again a completely self-made star. I think it's so incredible what he's achieved in life. I have such respect for his journey and what he's done. And who knows, there might be another part.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Waiting for the
Hello.
One last question, please.
It was a fantastic presentation. And my name is Dr. Raj Ray. I'm from San Francisco, California, and Austin, Texas. Although I've been living in the US for 25 years, I have been following your movies, and I was pleasantly surprised to see a movie like Dem Naga Ke Haisa. I must tell you that I was highly impressed by your performance, and also other movies. I have a very interesting question. You have been doing a fantastic job in sustainability and other related areas. Personally, I'm an entrepreneur in the domain of wellness and sustainable agriculture is something I'm working on.
Congratulations. That's
Yes.
great.
While I'm highly impressed and I do things, I am also another soldier in the same war that you are a part of. Some of your colleagues are promoting Bolo Zuba Keshri, which is basically a tobacco gutka product. Bolo Zuba Keshri, Ajay Devgan, Shah Rukh Khan, and other people. And that causes, my brother is a gynecological oncologist in the University of Mississippi. And we have been strongly promoting these things so that Ajay Devgan and other people, I don't want to use the word shameless, but something close to that, they are promoting that whole India, US and other people, many people are dying in cancer. You are doing a fantastic job to counter that nonsensical activity. What your opinions are? Thank you so much for being so, and I'm sorry if I'm being too honest, but that's what I'm proud of, my honesty. And again, thank you for doing a fantastic job. I hope most people in this room will agree with me. Thank you, ma'am.
So all I can say is that can only be responsible for my actions, and I really hope that my voice is strong enough that people can be positively impacted by everything that I do. I don't want to use this platform to comment on anybody else's journey because it's their choices. I actually lost my father to cancer. And my mother has been working in this space for many, many years. And it's an illness that can break a family.
Yeah.
But having said that, as I said, my only hope out of this conversation is that all the work that I have done, and the reason, and I say it in the most humble way, in the nicest way, I don't want to blow my trumpet, but I really feel that the only way positive conversation can go on is if you talk about it, right? And I just hope that from my films, all the work that
It's each person's responsibility, right? I mean, in terms of what you can do and the choices that you make. And you've always made some exemplary choices in everything that you've done. Thank you so much for this movie. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for the gorgeous